Hello Internet, so nice to see you. Let's answer a few more of your music theory questions.
A minor plus G sharp is the Bernard Herrmann chord. Minor, major 7. Bernard Herrmann wrote, get ready for it, cinematic music, tie in with the topic. For Alfred Hitchcock, it shows up a lot in Psycho.
I am really glad you mentioned that because that soundtrack is one of my favorite, okay? And if you guys never heard the soundtrack for Psycho by Herman, you want to go and listen to the whole thing if you have any interest in film music because that thing was groundbreaking, revolutionary. The sound is able to take out of that orchestra were never done before, okay? Truly an original thing. And then it became cliche. Many of those sounds were used over and over and over in horror movies or in other kinds of movies, but at the time, completely groundbreaking. That chord is the minor major 7th chord, or the danger chord, as I like to call it. That chord today has a very specific association in our mind. It's used for one specific situation, okay? That chord, which I'm gonna play, it's this one. Okay, it's a minor chord. I'm playing an A minor chord with a G sharp, which is the major 7th. Okay, and by the way, there's more than one way to play it. Okay, that chord in film soundtrack expresses danger from an evil person, okay? And you're like, well, as opposed to what? As opposed, for instance, from danger from a natural disaster or danger from an accident, okay? Those will have other sounds, okay? And there are different sounds to express this. But this specific chord, the minor major 7th, okay? You can hear this in Psycho. You can hear this in any kind of detective movie when the detective is about to turn around a corner and there is a burglar just behind with a baseball bat or something. Or you can hear these in some horror movies when the murderer is lurking in the dark room. Okay? And like everything, of course, it became older and older. So now it became maybe too cliche, but it's still used. And for instance, now we're using this in comedies to indicate the same thing, because by using this chord over and over in all those years, the chord lost a little bit of its bite. So you cannot use it seriously anymore, but you can use it ironically in a comedy. Okay, and if you've seen any kind of more modern comedies, you hear this chord whenever there is something going wrong because somebody is evil, or sometimes because somebody is incompetent, okay, depending on the script. But I'm totally glad you mentioned that it's a great chord, and that's a great soundtrack, and anybody who's interested in the film soundtrack should listen to it.
I would like to know what the dramatic and cinematic potentiality of using a combination of at least 2 non-tonality chords. Is there a universal emotion that we are supposed to feel when they are used in a film score? Because when you hear 2 minor chords a minor third apart, it's either the Alabama song, Light My Fire, Darth Vader theme. I wonder what the associations were before Hollywood kicked in.
So the 2 chords you are talking about are those, and I'm gonna play A minor and F minor. Okay, 2 minor chords, a major third apart. What are the associations that we have in film soundtrack of it? It's interesting to know the story of those chords because that tells you the association. Those 2 chords were first used in this way by Wagner in the Rheingold, and I think it's the opening of Act 3, or maybe Scene 3, I don't remember exactly. But those 2 chords are a theme associated with a magic item. And the magic item is this dark helmet that allows a dwarf to control other dwarves and enslave them, like mind control them. You're gonna notice that the Rheingold and all the cycle of this Wagner opera, the story has a lot in common with fantasy like The Lord of the Rings, okay? Because the stories are all similar and the myths are all similar. So those two chords are associated with evil, with magic, with dark, and with a helmet. Well, the Darth Vader theme. Because dark plus helmet plus mind power, it's Darth Vader. And that's why we use those chords. The association has been exactly the same from the Wagner opera to today. Who else? Who else is dark and there's a helmet? Batman. And indeed, we are using those two chords also for practically all the Batman themes, except maybe the original Batman themes from the 70s or 60s. Okay, so the connection is either an antagonist or an anti-hero. And it's always with his face cover, always associated with dark, and always associated with some kind of fear or magical power or something like that. And it has been this way from the very beginning for this specific chord progression, okay? So we really didn't change the association. And if you get a bit more in depth on the film music association, you discover that we didn't change association on a number of things. A lot of those chords, progressions, tricks, ways of orchestrate have the exact same mental association with the original that have been written in late Romantic music. So if you listen to Tchaikovsky, all the Russian school, or Wagner, or all those late Romantic composers lists, okay, you find that all those things, all those elements, we've just taken those elements together with their association, together with their meaning, together with how we use them, their orchestration, and we transplanted them in film music, and we created music with that. And it's not to say that film music is not original or not good. To do this operation, it takes an immense amount of culture, knowledge, taste, ability to write, and a number of other things. So all my esteem to all those people writing this kind of music, okay, because they are geniuses to be able to do this kind of operation, okay? But that's the association of those two chords.
You sound like an evil villain, and you're teaching us guitar scales.
That will tell you something, right, about scales and guitar and all this kind of thing, you know? But you see, that's the interesting thing. Apparently, it's interesting how an Italian accent, it's either a cook or an evil villain. That's pretty much how we are stereotyped, right? So it's interesting. We are scientists or cook, and if we are a scientist, it's an evil scientist. So you know what? I'm gonna embrace that. Yes, the evil scientist tells you to learn guitar scales. Take my course for it.
The student picking up his notebook and pen is relatable when watching these videos.
That's what I recommend everybody to do. Every time you're studying music theory, have in front of you pen and paper. An old teacher of mine, a mathematics teacher, not a music teacher, I'm afraid, but he used to say that the mental power of a single man dwarfs if put against the mental power of the same man with pen and paper. Pen and paper are multipliers. They make you smarter because you can write down everything, free your mind, and actually think about what you're doing. Use pen and paper when you study music theory, okay? Don't be afraid of using it. Don't be afraid to write everything on paper. I recommend this to all my students, whether you are taking my courses, whether you're just listening to this YouTube channel, whenever something feels even slightly hard to you, and even before that, grab a piece of paper and a pen and write down everything, and you will discover that everything is magically clearer.